Hello lovelies, and welcome back to my knitting channel where I give you tutorials on how to knit certain patterns or stitches. Today's stitch is a stitch with several names: the stocking stitch ridge, little clusters, or granite stitch. If you know of a fourth or fifth name for this stitch, please put it down in the comments. I'm always fascinated how one stitch can have so many different names. So, what is this stitch? It is not reversible per se, in that the full effect is only shown on the front. This is the back of the work, although it's quite nice on its own, but it's not technically reversible. Doesn't really curl around the edges, so this is lovely for a scarf or a blanket, for instance. The pattern itself, it's a 4-row repeat, and it's not a very difficult one to remember, but it might have some stitches that are a little bit more advanced for the beginner, but this could be a lovely way to practice it. You have to cast on a multiple of 2 stitches. Do keep in mind that if you, for instance, want to have 5 of these little bumps, you'll have to add an extra pair of 2 stitches, because with the multiple of 2 stitches, one of those 2 stitches is split up for your edge stitches. I hope you understand what I mean. If you don't, you'll figure it out when I show you how to knit this. So let's get to it. So row 1, easy enough. You just knit all your stitches knitwise. Row 1 is on the right side. As I said previously, this is a 4-row repeat. 2 of the rows is just stocking knit stitch, easy peasy, and they're right after each other, so when you repeat them. So just knit all your stitches, just continuing off this little swatch, because you don't really need a particular setup for this stitch. Now on to row 2, where the magic starts. So, row 2, wrong side. You're going to start with a purl 1. And then what you are going to do with all your stitches, except for that last one, is you're going to knit 2 stitches together. I repeat, knit, don't purl them, you're going to knit them together. So with your right needle, you go from the 2nd stitch on your left needle through to the 1st stitch on your left needle. Yarn over, pull a stitch out, and slip it off. That simple. Knit 2 together. There we are. So when you're knitting, a lot of knitters often count each row to make sure that they still have the same amount of stitches. You can do this for this pattern as well, except not during the 2nd row, because as you're seeing, you are decreasing a lot of stitches, but this is temporary, don't worry. Last 2. Then here, this last one, you're going to purl. So as I said in the beginning, one of the 2 stitches, of the multiples of 2s that you have to cast on, disappears because you use them as an edge stitch on either side of your work. There. On to the next row. So now we're on row 3, this is on the right side. For this, we are going to knit 1 stitch, the edge stitch, and now this was the knit two together from the previous row, so we decreased from 2 stitches to 1. This can't stay like that because you'll just end up knitting a pyramid. So we're going to increase this 1 stitch to 2 stitches. So we're going to do that by knitting through the front and the back loop. So I'm going to get up real close to the camera. Going to go in from right to left, no sorry, from left to right into the stitch, and you're just going to knit it as normal. Yarn over, pull it out, don't slip it off. You're now going to go from right to left into the stitch, wrap your yarn and pull that out. Now you can slip it off. There you are. So it'll look like a knit stitch, and this will look a little bit like a purl stitch because of how the previous stitch that you just slipped off, how it falls. That's normal, that's absolutely fine. So I'm going to show you again. From left to right, go into your stitch, wrap your yarn, pull it out, keep it on, go a little bit more to the back, from right to left, go into the same stitch, wrap your yarn, pull it out. Now you can slip it off. There you are. Now some people, because the next thing I'm going to say simply depends on how you wrap your yarn. It has no difference in the look of your work, absolutely doesn't, but it might be confusing for you when you're doing this stitch. My stitches, because of how I wrap my yarn this way, but if you're someone who wraps your yarn that way, your stitch might look like this on your needle. So mine looks like this. So basically the right leg is in front, the left leg of the stitch is in the back. For you it might look different, it might look like that. Then how do you do it? Exactly the same as before. I'm just going to show you in case someone is looking at their needles, looking at the stitches and saying, mine doesn't look like that, my stitch doesn't look like that, am I doing something wrong? No, you're absolutely not doing something wrong. So you're still going to go from left to right, wrap your yarn however which way you want, and scoop it out, and go through the back, go from right to left in the stitch, wrap your yarn however way, clockwise, anti-clockwise, scoop it out, slip it off. Whether you wrap your yarn this way or this way has as much effect on the on your work, whether you holding your yarn in your left hand like I do or in your right hand. So that has no effect. Just do whatever is comfortable for you. So you do all of this, the knit in front and in the back, until you have 1 stitch left. So if you're counting, you should end up with the same amount of stitches that you originally casted on. Because you have to repeat quite a lot in this pattern. It is a pattern that you can really get into a rhythm with. So you could maybe watch some television or listen to a podcast while you're doing this one. You don't have to think too much, which is sometimes lovely. So to the very end, except for 1 stitch. This last stitch, you don't do knit in front, you don't knit it in front and in the back, you just knit the 1 stitch. Don't forget to not increase this stitch, because otherwise you'll end up with more stitches than you originally casted on. We do not want that. So on to the last row. So row 4, wrong side, nothing fancy, you purl every single stitch. Easy peasy. And a good row to count all your stitches to make sure that you did everything correctly. And that you have the same amount of stitches that you originally casted on. Make sure, if you're a very tight knitter, because you knitted the previous stitch in the front and the back, they can sometimes be very close up. Make sure you don't accidentally purl them together, or purl them as two stitches as one. So do keep them apart and purl each stitch separately. You just do that to the end. So this pattern has, if you keep repeating them, row 4, and you go on to row 1, is just stockinette. You purl all the stitches on the wrong side and you knit all the stitches on the right side. And then you just have a row of decreases, and then you have a row of increases. So, not too shabby, not too difficult. Hope this tutorial was helpful. If so, you can always help me out and my channel by liking, commenting, sharing, all the above. You can also subscribe to my channel, of course. Sometimes I forget to mention that. And yeah, I hope I see you next time. Bye!